Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Crick Fans. आज मेरे साथ फिर वही पेयर बैठे हुए हैं मुस्तफीज अहमद और जोहा. I'm pretty sure they are eagerly waiting for this episode as well. So let me begin. So unlike our normal episodes, यहाँ पे थोड़ा तीन चीज फर्क करें because I've been recently reading a book called Cricket in Pakistan. ठीक है, and this is written by Professor of Slums Ali Khan. And honestly, it's one of the best cricketing books that I've read. And that speaks a lot because मैंने बहुत पढ़ी हुई है and it has so much history, politics, everything written over there. और मैं हमेशा कदाफी स्टेडियम में जाता था. मैं कहता था कौन सा कारदार स्टैंड है. मतलब I asked my dad, he's like the first bat I ever got that has sticker of कारदार. So I just knew that about him. And turns out he was first captain of Pakistan cricket team and one of the best chairmen of cricket CCB. और इसमें इतना इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट पता है आईसीसी में एंट्री के लिए इंडिया सपोर्टेड अस. इंडिया वाज ओनली कंट्री दैट सपोर्टेड अस. And these facts kind of like shocked me, and you definitely need to read this book. I'm telling you. Okay. So now, since we are done with me expressing how happy I am at reading a book, तो इसके बाद हम बात करते हैं एक और पेज की जिसने बड़ा राइज किया है. I personally loved it. The King Pair. मुस्तफीज वो कुछ कहना चाहते हैं उसके बारे में?
यार बहुत बेहतरीन पेयर है वो.
I love their episodes. I love their episodes.
They love watching cricket, they love playing cricket, they love talking about cricket, they love joking about cricket, and I think that epitomizes the work that they do. And I really hope that more people start watching their episodes.
Yeah,
it's a really good watch.
Guys, this wasn't paid promotion. या मैं वैसे ही फिल्म पसंद आया.
मैं बस अपने दोस्तों को प्रमोट कर रहा हूँ.
मैं न्यूट्रल हूँ. मेरे दोस्त नहीं थे. मैं वैसे खोल के देखी टर्न आउट बाकी चीज थी. Okay, so done with everything. Let's move on to cricket, shall we? अच्छा, so cricketing वर्ल्ड में ना आजकल बहुत कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग हुआ. I mean, अगर तुम मुझसे 5 साल पहले कहते हैं कि पाकिस्तान के दो प्लेयर्स हैं, दो बैटर्स, वो टॉप 2 हैं T20 में और टॉप 2 हैं ODI में, एंड वो दोनों सेम नहीं, उनमें फर्क भी है. एंड आई वुड probably would have slapped you saying कि नहीं बॉलिंग में हो सकता है we would be first and second, सईद अजमल फर्स्ट होगा, सेकंड पे शायद उमर गोल आ जाए या शायद अफरीदी विकेट आ जाए. बट बैटिंग में हमारा तो बैटिंग कोलैप्स इतना कॉमन है कि आप इसको कुछ कह नहीं सकते. बट इन अदर न्यूज, पाकिस्तान का इमाम उल हक इज नाउ सेकंड इन ICC ODI बैटिंग रैंकिंग एंड बाबर आजम, किंग बाबर आजम इज फर्स्ट एज एक्सपेक्टेड. और T20 में भी रिजवान इज सेकंड एंड बाबर आजम इज फर्स्ट. So इतनी खुशी महसूस हुई उस दिन, प्रॉपर लाइक दिल खुश हो गया. So with that being said, Zoha, would you like to comment on Imam's rise? I mean, it wasn't that long ago जब सारे को पच्ची बोलते थे and everyone would be like ये अपने इंजमाम की वजह से आया है. It's another fact कि Imam's highest career ranking has been third, whereas Imam's highest career ranking has been third, whereas Imam अब second हो चुका है. So any thoughts on Imam on his rise?
Honestly, I think Imam ul Haq he gets overshadowed by Babar a lot, especially because टेस्ट वो अब खेलना शुरू है, ODI हम खेलते बहुत कम है, तो लोगों ने उसको खेलते देखा ही बहुत कम है. वो अलग बात है, whenever he plays good, like इतना consistent है. I don't recall him failing, like proper failing in current memory. Like last recent memory मुझे उसकी आखिरी जो genuine struggling वाली innings है वो ऑस्ट्रेलिया टेस्ट वाली ही याद है, जो एक इनिंग्स उसकी बहुत वो स्ट्रगल कर रहा था, but even then he scored. तो ऐसा नहीं है that he's not scoring या whatever, but I do think again this is something that I think is very variable. मतलब nepotism वाली बात हर प्लेयर पे हो जाती है. जब I remember when Babar came very early on, उसको भी बोलते थे because he was related to the Akmal brothers. वो अलग बात है, अल्लाह का शुक्र है he's nothing like them, but I remember distinctly कि उसको बोलते थे कि ये उसकी वजह से है because he's connected to them. And then same with Usman Qadir. And then honestly I feel like if you're good at something, you're gonna be good at it. उससे then you can't just not be put into the team because you're related to Imam ul Haq. He's earned his spot and he's genuinely showing the world that he deserves the spot. वैसा नहीं है कि वो टीम में बाबर का बेस्ट फ्रेंड बन के या इंजमाम का कुछ लग के वो बैठा हुआ है. ही इज जेन्युइनली लाइक रिकॉर्ड शो करते हैं, इवन आईसीसी रैंकिंग्स व्हाटएवर, लाइक he's properly doing what he's meant to do. So I don't think these make any sense longer. I know बहुत से इमाम haters हैं, वो कहते हैं अभी भी ये expose हो जाएगा. I don't get this word expose हो जाएगा क्या? What do you mean? Like he's done what he's supposed to do.
Also, like ये वाली statement record करना, because this is a huge 180 shift from how Zoha used to think
No,
about Imam Haq a few months ago.
I
That is
am
also
not a Imam
recorded.
Haq hater. I
No, no,
still prefer Shan over Imam. I still prefer Shan over Imam.
no.
I love Shan's game even more, but just because I'm a Shan Masood #1 fan, but that does not make me an Imam ul Haq hater. I think I think we're lucky कि हमें ये dilemma हो रहा है पहली दफा पूरी पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट की हिस्ट्री में that we're fighting over batsmen, क्योंकि हम we're spoiled for choice. I love Shan Masood's batting, but just because Shan Masood is good does not mean कि हम इमाम उल हक को हटा दें. Like you don't fix what's not broken, right? वही बात है कि बाबर
It's
को one down loud.
it's a very
Very
interesting thing that you pointed out कि पहली दफा हो रहा है कि हम बैटर्स के ऊपर लड़ रहे हैं. I remember पाकिस्तान की अगर आप ओपनिंग हमेशा सोचते थे इमरान फरद, इमरान नजीर, कामरान अकमल, सलमान बट, यासिर हमीद, the list goes on, खुर्रम मंजूर, अहमद शहजाद, शाजेब अंसर, वो मेरा वो दोस्त है, sorry, या
Sharjeel.
शर्जील. I mean, yeah, Salman Butt was good, but I don't even want to talk about him anymore. तो डायलेमा हमेशा यही होता था कि यार कोई तो ओपनर मिल जाए जो रन करते. तो दरमियान नासिर जमशेद भी आया था, मोहम्मद हफीज भी हमारा ओपनर था. Oh, legendary stuff. I suddenly recalled everything. And अब देखो मेरे पास समझ नहीं आ रही ओपन किससे कराना है. I even read the other day कि यार रिजवान को ओपन कराओ, वरना रिजवान भी ओडीआई में अच्छा नहीं खेले. पहले मैं सोचता था कितने ओपनर भरे हैं टीम के अंदर. That's a dilemma जो आपको समझ ही नहीं आया. पाकिस्तान पहली दफा, I think we're going through our prime in terms of batting. That's my personal take. We have never had this much talent in batting, and even though we do have the tendency to collapse at times, which is an inherent issue since the very start, but if you look at the quality of batters that we now have, we are at the best that we could have possibly had. एक जमाना था पाकिस्तान में दुआ करते थे एक अच्छा बैटर मिल जाए वो पूरी टीम को संभाल लेगा. इट वुड बी यूसुफ, इट वुड बी मिसबाह, यूनस, ये एक होता था. ठीक है. और अब एकदम से इतने आगे समझ नहीं आती किसको ज्यादा टाइम मिले पिच पे. Like whenever you're looking at Imam and Babar bat as well, you can't decide who's the one who you would want to play till the end. You would be like, अच्छा यार दोनों ही खेल रहे हैं end तक बेहतर है. Because you know how one plays as the anchor role and the other goes aggressive. Both are aggressive. Both are rotating the strike, and then you can't figure out that how do we fix them in the mainstream roles that we have defined for them. So that is something that that's a problem that I'm happy to have for Pakistan. और जहाँ तक बात है, I mean, this is gonna sound silly, but how cool does it sound that you and your best friend are the top two in the world? I mean, I had the same marks, the highest, with my best friend over here in one course, and I felt so good. Oh my god, I could not tell that feeling, and to imagine that you're the top two in the world and your besties, that's like so cool. That is so
Babar
cool.
gets to say it twice because ODI में भी यही है and T20 में भी यही है.
अच्छा मजे की बात ये rather than being happy for Babar, I'm more happy for Imam. It's like Babar's expectation है you are bound to be number one. चलो यार बाकी हो एक होता है एक बच्चा बहुत लाइक्स और उसका भाई होता है तो वो जो हमेशा फर्स्ट आता है लाइक अच्छा अच्छी बात है आप एक्सपेक्ट किया है. एंड देन द लिटिल ब्रदर ही गेट्स द सेम एज यू. लो वाओ यार ये सही इंप्रूवमेंट हुई यार आपने सही काम किया. So I'm bringing out all the desi things that I've seen over here in this analysis, and that's slightly silly.
Also ODI rankings is like Babar, Imam, Virat and Rohit na.
Yeah, ICC replaced the whole pair.
Post colonial. Yeah, this is post colonial. We are
अगर तुम ऑलराउंडर्स में देखो तो अफगानिस्तान हैज लिटरली राशिद नबी और फिर कोई नजर नहीं आता. वो इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग वाज इमाम में स्टिल नंबर 8 इन द ओडीआई ऑलराउंडर्स लिस्ट, एंड आई कुड नॉट. I had no idea how. Like अभी उसने मुझे याद ही नहीं लास्ट ओडीआई खेला कब था. He was so good.
2019
He
I
was
think
so.
World Cup ही
तो उसने
उसके
निकाला
बाद खेला है.
I don't remember उसको ड्रॉप कर दिया.
ऑलराउंडर्स की रैंकिंग्स की बात कर रहे हो?
हाँ
कौन सी रैंकिंग्स की?
ओडीआई ऑलराउंडर
ICC ODI rankings
ऑलराउंडर्स की ना?
हाँ
All-rounders rankings, I don't think matter a lot because
Oh, they do. You know,
they
Rashid
don't.
is the best. You know,
Yeah,
Ben
नहीं
Stokes is
नहीं
in that list.
यार
Ben
बात
Stokes
पूरी
is
करने
दो
दो ना,
ऊपर उससे. हाँ.
because you don't really there's how do you, ठीक है बैटिंग में I know कि there's an opener, there's a number 3, वो rules फर्क होते हैं, but when you're an all-rounder there's a lot of variance in the importance that they have for your bowling and for your batting. So I do feel like generally historically batting all-rounders have been given somewhat of an edge in this regard. शकीब काफी देर नंबर 1 रहा था, जैक कैलिस नंबर 1 रहा था, वर्ल्ड क्लास ऑलराउंडर्स ऑब्वियसली, बट और ऑब्वियसली जब तक बेन स्टोक्स वाजंट अ आउट एंड आउट बैटिंग ऑलराउंडर until very recently. बेन स्टोक्स was more of a bowling all-rounder, तो तब तक उसकी रैंकिंग्स ऊपर नहीं आई थी. फिर फॉर एग्जांपल लाइक उस लिहाज से आई डू फील लाइक all-rounders rankings I don't really acknowledge all that.
We're
I
not
will agree
ready
with you until
के.
the day,
हाँ. I'm not using
until
it
the
as a.
day. Uh,
अच्छा तुम पहले बोल लो.
go ahead. I'm just saying I'll agree with Mustafeez, but जिस दिन Shadab becomes number 1 ODI batting all rounder, उस दिन I'll say ODI rankings matter the most. All rounders, yeah.
अच्छा, we're not using it as a claim उसको वापस टीम में डालो. हम बस अपनी शॉक एक्सप्लेन करेंगे. यू लाइक अच्छा माधव टीम में लिस्ट में अभी भी है. तो वो बस बता रहे थे. ओके, मूविंग ऑन. तो शादाब खान का जिक्र हुआ. तो शादाब खान पे 89 रन. व्हाट इज ऑनेस्टली, मुझे लगा वो मैच हारे हुए हम प्रॉपर. मतलब बैटिंग कोलैप्स हो गई. बाबर 1-0 या 0 पे आउट होता, 1 पे आउट होता, 1 पे आउट होता, 1 पे. बाबर वेंट फॉर 1. फिर रिजवान भी गया, हारिस भी फ्लॉप हो गया. आई लाइक आज गए. एक मैच तो जिताना था ही उनको, चलो जीत रहे. एंड देन सडनली डस्ट स्टॉर्म आया, वापस आया. शादाब खान वाज प्लेइंग एज इफ ही इज द कैप्टन ऑफ इस्लामाबाद यूनाइटेड अगेन. इनसाइड आउट पे 6 जा रहा है, स्ट्रेट 6. द मैच्योरिटी दैट यू आर सीइंग ओवर देयर, शादाब से पहले हमने इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट में ऐसी बैटिंग नहीं देखी. And he was playing with such composure. He, as if he had a game plan. He knew when to strike the ballers he had to target. So, in my opinion, Shadab Khan, you deserve a lot of credit for what you have done. I know it gets overshadowed by the fact that Pakistan is bowling बहुत अच्छी की and West Indies weren't really in the competition. Although I do think Akil Hussain with his batting at the end, I really, really wanted a close encounter because he was batting beautifully. But khair, Shadab Khan का praise, I think we all agree कि Shadab Khan deserves this praise. And चीमा भाई, आपने हमें बोला था काफी देर पहले कि शादाब खान अच्छा फिनिशर है, बैटर है. We agree with you. We're sorry. Okay. So moving on. Acha, this topic is going to excite Mustafeez Ahmed because a couple of days ago, Mustafeez and us had a conversation where we talked about Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes becoming the captain of the England side, and suddenly New Zealand could not handle the pressure of the English side that literally came out at them and started smashing sixes from the very beginning. And it's funny how I met Mustafiz at day 3 of the test, and he was telling me New Zealand is going to play one day, but still England is going to win the test match. And I honestly thought that, it's a lost cause because New Zealand isn't going to lose from here. The worst thing that could possibly happen to them is a draw. But hats off to Mustafiz. कमाल prediction थी. Mustafiz, क्या आपके इसके ऊपर आया?
Just a correction, मैंने ये कहा था कि England I believe are at an advantage, but I also said कि I do feel like there's a genuine chance of a result. तो मेरी यही बात हो रही थी. I think I talked to Zoha about this as well कि England की approach चलेगी for a considerable while and they will fail at it in games, or they will try to chase down 300s in a day. इस बार तो बहुत ही आराम से कर दिया था, and they will fail. But that will not stop them from continuing with this practice. क्योंकि अगर वो ब्रेंडन मैकैलम को लाए हैं, तो that means that they want this mindset. So going for a win if when there is a win, ठीक है, and on the cards अगर win है तो they are going for a win. अब फाइज तुम खुद बताओ, have you ever seen a team at 90 for 4 chasing 300 and going for a win as soon as they come back from tea? That is insane.
I suddenly remember Pakistan trying it in the last test against Australia and
Second था
miserably
या
failing.
third था? Third test
Third था. थर्ड था,
हाँ,
हम जीत रहे थे, हम छक्के मारने चक्कर में गए थे, विकेटें गिर गई एंड देन वी लॉस्ट.
नहीं, we did enough to pile up enough pressure on Australia कि वो थोड़ा easy हो जाए. But I do feel like
No,
Pakistan,
when we came out in the last session, we only needed 130 runs to win, which is possible. 30 overs में 130 कर सकते हो.
अच्छा मुझे
Australia were
याद है,
on the defensive as
मुझे
well.
याद है
उन्होंने
we were
बाउंड्री पे
not
बंदे
going
रखने
for it.
शुरू कर दिए. And I remember this fondly because I texted someone, because you were the one who said 60-40 ये पाकिस्तान जीतेगा हारेगा. I texted someone that, see, I'm going to talk to Mustafeez after this episode and tell bro देखो मैं सही कर रहा था. So that's why I remember it very.
I still think we should have gone for it. मतलब
We
I
did.
think
That's
it's
the fault. We started going after balls that
we
weren't there
did,
to be
but
hit,
we
and we
did it too
edged them.
late. हमने प्रेशर आखिरी सेशन में नहीं डाला था इतना.
Bro, it was
We
manageable. You're asking 4 runs per over, 4.5 runs per over. That's
it is
possible.
manageable. It is more manageable.
Yeah.
Exactly. तो मैं कह रहा हूँ हमने नहीं डाला था इतना जितना डालना चाहिए था. अब as for like Bairstow and Stokes, अब तुम Stokes की 4 innings देखी हैं तुमने टेस्ट में, इस सीरीज में. He came in pressure situations और वो वनडे खेल रहा था full on अपनी तरफ से, and even at times he was going all out. He even got dismissed once on a no ball. उसके बाद भी नहीं वो सुध रहा था, which means के Brendan McCallum has decided a batting role for him, which is to go all out. Number 1. Number 2, Joe Root 200 balls 160 कौन सोचता है भैया, ठीक है, that doesn't happen. सही है. और दूसरी बात, Johnny Bairstow scoring the second fastest ever century for England in tests. जो फास्टेस्ट सेंचुरी थी वो एक बॉय की तब उस जमाने की थी जब छक्का तब लगता था जब स्टेडियम से बाहर बॉल जाती थी. तो एक मैं चीज पढ़ा था, वन ऑफ हिज फोर्स एक्चुअली लैंडेड ऑन द प्लेयर्स बैल्कनी. ठीक है, वो चौका था. आई हैव नो आइडिया वो कितना वैशी प्लेयर था, सुना कि था, बट लाइक बैक टू द पॉइंट, आई डू फील लाइक न्यूजीलैंड डिड मिस काइल जेमिसन बिकॉज 4 बॉलर्स के साथ वो खेल रहे थे. बट अगेन इंग्लैंड saw the opportunity. उन्हें पता था आखिरी सेशन में उनके पेसर्स थके हुए होंगे. They took them on और it was amazing to watch. I don't like seeing England win, but I really liked seeing this approach to a test match. और अगली बात, पाकिस्तान इंग्लैंड की टेस्ट सीरीज आ रही है. I think we're going to win the series, but I also think this is going to be an incredibly exciting series और like मजा आएगा बस. That's it.
Acha, so Zoha, do you have any comments on this before I present my opinion? Because mine are slightly different from Mustafeez's.
I just have one opinion, actually two. एक तो before this test series मैं सोच रही थी कि जॉनी बेयरस्टो का क्या रोल है अब टीम में, because like he's not been playing as like मुझे याद नहीं आता उसने लास्ट का बहुत अच्छी कोई इनिंग्स खेली है, and like I felt he's very ill placed in the team, like वो आता है and then he doesn't score and then he goes and then so I was like I think ये इसकी last series है, and then he came and did this and I mean मतलब बहुत अच्छी बात है honestly. Second, in I think we've discussed this in like second or third episode, like जो हमने इसी पे की थी, हमने 2 episodes में इस पे बात की हुई है इंग्लैंड की टेस्ट में. तो आई थिंक जो सेकंड वाली थी ना जिसमें हम ये बात करते हैं, हमने की थी कि बैज मैकुलम एज कोच, and tab I remember saying that I don't know how well the England team will come into a Baz McCullum की जो approach है ना go वाली, I don't know how well जो current England team है वो इसको adapt कर लेगी, but I take my words back because apparently they're doing it and they're doing it well. So बस I have 2 opinions.
Acha, so Mustafeez mentioned how Ben Stokes got out and then he did not stop. Bro, अगर इस पे मैं appreciation देने लग गया तो शायद फीजी को standing ovation देते हैं. I mean, हर बॉल पे छक्का attempt करना हर किसी के बस के बात में होता था. But us Pakistanis criticize them, but Ben Stokes does it, so it's appreciation for worthy.
No, that's a very false equivalence. Compare
No.
Ben Stokes' shots and attempts to
No.
Afridis, and you will know what you're talking about.
No.
That I will not accept that equivalence.
No.
I think that is unfair. I think that
so
is
let me.
a logical
Excuse me.
fallacy.
I let you speak, not my turn. Okay. Don't make me pull an Numan Niazi on you. Okay.
You kick me out. This is wrong.
Okay, so
सही
apart
है
from that, that was just a joke. Okay, I'm not saying कि Ben Stokes की
ऑब्वियसली
शॉट्स और
मजाक
होते
किया होते हैं
मैं बहुत चीज से शायद से वीडियो कुछ बोला ना मैंने तो छोड़ना
नहीं
नहीं
मैं तो
है
मजाक कर
अच्छा
रहा था
so secondly I think it's all well and good that they won and all but I find Ben Stokes' personality as a captain slightly of the show if I know that's not going to go well this opinion but I find him to be a bit of a show off. I mean the whole match was won by Johnny Bairstow and if you look at it closely and in the first innings it was Joe Root who set the foundation for everything and suddenly you're acting as if you're sole savior of a nation that was suffering and you're here to save them from everything and comparing it with Headingley and World Cup final I mean are you debasing your earlier efforts or are you trying to uplift this thing to that level I'm sorry but you cannot compare it to Headingley or what you did in the World Cup final and personally I do think Ben Stokes is slightly sure ठीक है and I appreciate him as a player I genuinely do he's one of my favorites मैं तो दुआ करता था लाहौर कलंदर में वो आ जाए लेकिन खैर वो नहीं आया only time will tell Ben Stokes would only be tested when they actually go outside of their playing field. England में test खेलना even Australia struggles over there. Even they struggle to defeat England in their home because literally वो Lords का मैदान हो या किसी कोई और हो, they know the conditions inside out and they have been playing with it on that same track for years. I would like to see them go out and win in India, where Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad won't be there to provide them early wickets, and where spinning tracks won't make it so easier for Ben Stokes to jump out of his crease and smash it over the boundary. That's another thing. I'm not going to give a verdict until unless they come out of their own backyard and actually prove it somewhere else. That's my personal take.
like I have a
I think
slightly
it's
different
too
view on it.
early. It's too early to say कि Baz और Stokes जो हैं, they have brought a new revolution and all. I think it's too early to say that. याद है मोहसिन हसन खान पाकिस्तान का कोच बना था और हम 5 इकट्ठे टेस्ट मैच जीते थे and
Faaiz,
everyone was like Mohsin Hassan Khan is the best thing that ever happened to Pakistan and suddenly you went out of your comfort zone and you realized okay there are many cracks that aren't being addressed and Mohsin Hassan Khan had to step down eventually. I'm not saying it's going to end up like that but I'm saying it's too early to say कि Ben Stokes और वो जो है they are like the best thing that ever happened to English cricket.
no, that's not what anyone is saying.
Have you read
England-
BBC Sports? Have you read
मेरी
BBC
बात
Sports?
सुनो
वो तो
अरे मैं
खुदा
बिल्कुल-
बना बैठे हैं. Ben Stokes, sir,
England
Ben
की
Stokes saving England once again. Oh my God, ये IMF तो नहीं है उनका?
इंग्लैंड की टेस्ट की हालात इतने बुरे थे वो तुम्हें भी पता है वो पूरी दुनिया को पता है
Bro, वो
now
इंग्लैंड के अंदर
anything
खेलते हुए
remotely
जीत जाता है. इंग्लैंड के अंदर खेलते जीता है. इंग्लैंड बाहर जाता है फिर मरता है.
तो दो
मैं पहली बात
anything anything remotely good that happens to them is in test cricket is a huge win for them. वो प्रॉपर अगर अप्रोच चेंज देख रहे हैं उनके लिहाज से इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ बिग अप्रोच चेंज whether it works or not that's not the point is ke it's different from what used to be and what used to be in English cricket in terms of test cricket was horrible over the past 5 to 6 years itni si baat hai
I think 5 to 6 years is a bit too long. It was just the last 3 years that this sucked before
Chalo,
pandemic. उससे पहले भी when Australia came to England, they drew the series जो Headingley वाला हुआ था if I'm not too wrong. ठीक है. The only thing that Aussies only retained the Ashes because they won the previous series. If I'm not too wrong, अगर गलत हूँ तो you can correct me, but that's another thing. So I think फिर इंडिया ने visit किया था, they demolished India. फिर वेस्ट इंडीज ने टूर किया इंग्लैंड का, वो भी उड़ गए. It's only when they leave their home, they go to Australia, they go somewhere else, that you actually realize कि okay हमारे मसले हैं. That's my personal take. अच्छा ठीक हमने काफी बोल दिया इसके ऊपर. Mustafeez and Zoha wanted to talk about the Azim Rafiq case, so like you guys can go ahead with your opinions.
तो recent update कुछ यूं है कि apparently Yorkshire is going to plead guilty, and there are going to be charges that are going to be certain individuals are going to be charged at Yorkshire. लेकिन the situation is कि या ECB ने या BBC ने, I don't know who did this, they're not going to reveal the names of the people who are being charged. ठीक है. The reason that is hypocritical is क्योंकि BBC की उसी दिन जिस दिन ये खबर आती है क्योंकि certain individuals are going to be charged, उसी दिन BBC की एक और headline आती है Azim Rafiq might be charged. Azim Rafiq named might be charged for his earlier age-old anti-Semitic comments. So that is a very, I don't know who's running the media. I don't know who's running this entire thing for ECB. Like in the hypocritical stance of not naming those being implicated on racism charges at Yorkshire, while simultaneously naming Azim Rafiq for potentially getting charged is a horrible thing.
Yeah, so with that being said, I would once again suggest you read this book. इसमें इसके ऊपर बहुत कुछ लिखा हुआ है. Literally about how English media and English people actually have racism, like a sense of superiority, और वो काफी over the years नजर आए. So with that being said, we would like to move on to our last segment. Zoha, if you notice, Indian team ever since the World Cup is being is quite fragile. You don't know who's the captain, who's gonna be the main player, who's gonna play. South Africa का भी tour. So what's your thought about the about the Indian team going forward, considering कि उनके मसले बहुत चल रहे हैं?
Honestly, ever since Kohli got ousted, I feel like Indian camp में बहुत मसले हैं, which kudos to Indian media कि वो नहीं बताते if this was happening in Pakistan या it was happening in Pakistani camp. उसको बताया भी होता, उसको बहुत ज़्यादा exaggerate करके भी बताया था, but so I'm not sure what's going on there, but something clearly is. Some rumors आए होते हैं that Virat and Rohit don't get along and then stuff like that. But I feel like Virat is a big, बहुत बड़ा वो Indian cricket में नाम है, and to see the kind of treatment that he received from BCCI and then the Indian fans ever since, even before, slightly before the World Cup, and then बहुत ज़्यादा prominently since the World Cup, since Pakistan वाली match, it has been brutal. Like उन्होंने उसकी बेटी, उसकी family, they were like really, 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 really weird and cruel. I feel like that also takes a toll on the players. If they see someone like Virat being treated that way, and then they're like, अब ये एक vacuum create हो गया है, do I want to take that? I think this is just like me thinking out loud. कि if, and then you see कि वो कभी KL Rahul बन रहा है captain, कभी रोहित शर्मा बन रहा है, कभी ऋषभ पंत बन रहा है, and now Hardik Pandya. I don't know what's going on. I feel like बहुत सारे लोग एकदम after Virat they're available, but at the same time none of them are like distinct in the sense that yeah he should lead, yeah he should lead. Okay, they're just like at this point experimenting. I think, I'm not sure, but someone said that I think जब T20 Ireland के साथ है, India has a test with who, Australia, or who does India have a test with at the same time? I don't know if for sure, but that's I read it somewhere on Twitter.
I'm unaware of that. I'm unaware.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it either. Someone just mentioned, I tweeted it and someone wrote it under ke unka kabhi test hai. I think so that is also one reason ke they're using multiple captains ke ek test ka hoga, ek T20 hoga, and Ireland के साथ वो हार्दिक पांड्या वाली टीम भेज रहे हैं, and then whatever test, I'm not sure. I think it's Australia. I'm honestly not sure. So I think this also, I don't.
Test, the one test that was remaining ages ago, India
versus England wala. Oh, अच्छा.
England.
Series khatam
Get me
karne.
confused if it's India or Australia, and I was like, someone wrote that it's Australia. I was like, कौन सा Australia वाला match है? So it's England. Okay, it's England versus India. Yeah. So apparently it's happening in the same time. तो एक टीम उन्होंने वहां भेजी है, एक टीम वहां भेजनी है, and this also is something that in BCCI has expanded so much कि वो ये कर सकते हैं. I don't think any other team would want to, या could even.
I think
once a legend said, let me quote the legend.
I know what's coming.
India can have two teams and both of them can end up winning the World Cup. So इंसान डॉगी पाल ले पर इतनी कुछ स्टैमिना पाल ले.
Also I think England जो नेदरलैंड्स के साथ सीरीज खेल रहा है वो भी during the time of the ये न्यूजीलैंड वाली सीरीज ही है.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I personally think that they are jumping to conclusions. I mean, can you really say Pant is a senior player who's mature enough to lead a side? I mean, IPL में he does lead, but even in IPL, I remember Pant from the Australia tour that मुझे तब पता चला को Pant player भी है prominent when he ended up sledging with Tim Pine and like ended up smashing. That's the
And
only time I got to know there's a player called Pant. ठीक है? And even if you look at Hardik Pandya, is he really mature enough and that established there himself? I mean, I can't even remember the last time he played like a flamboyant innings or like took 5 wickets. I know there was a time, especially in the Champions Trophy and in the World Cup, where he was a very crucial member. But with his injury crisis as well, can you really depend on him? That's another thing. KL Rahul, but personally, I think Indian media also overhypes their players. If you remember before the opening match against Pakistan, they were literally asking Kohli to drop Rohit Sharma for Ishan Kishan. And Kohli was like, do you really think that Rohit Sharma, who has scored double centuries, is one of the biggest hitters in the cricketing world, needs to be dropped because you and the media say Ishan Kishan is better? I know Kishan is now eighth in T20 ranking, but they do jump to conclusions. Like Chakravarti, they're like, we have found a generational spinner. He's the best out there. And one innings and one match against Babar and Rizwan was enough to let them realize that Chakravarti is like any other bowler जो पाकिस्तान की सर को मिलता है. I'm quoting Salman Butt over here. So with that being said, I think it's time to wrap up our episode. And once again, it was a pleasure arguing with Mustafeez Ahmed like a kid. I love that Mustafeez and Zoha watching us and slightly disappointed but smiling as well. So on that note, I think it's time to end this episode. We hope to see you guys once again. So Allah Hafiz.